Hi, I'm Wes Allen with DM Tales, and today I'm going to be taking a look at Shadowdark by the Arcane Library. Let's roll it. Before I get started, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It pleases the algorithmic overlords, and it does help out the channel even more than I knew. I'd also like to give a special shout out to my patrons. You all help make this channel keep going. So if you'd like to join the DM Tales Patreon community, there is a link to the description below. You'll get access to the DM Tales Discord server, as well as some special updates that are just for patrons, including a series of comic strips that I've been doing over the last couple weeks or so. Having said all that, let's get to the review. When I heard about Shadowdark in 2023, my first thought was, well, it looks cool, but I've got some games that already scratch those itches, so I'm not sure I need it. And then people kept bringing it up during its Kickstarting campaign, so I figured I had to be missing something and decided to download the Quick Start PDF. And I was hooked, so hooked in fact, that I immediately attempted my first actual play live stream just so I could check out the system. I was really that into it. And had Dragonbane not been released at around a similar time as Shadowdark came out, Shadowdark would be by far my favorite fantasy system to run. And even with Dragonbane, as it is, Shadowdark is ranked 1A in my mental list. It's really that good. Let's dive in. So there's a lot in this game that will make modern D&D players feel right at home. Shadowdark's tests are all rolled on a d20 against a difficulty class. That sounds very familiar to any 5e player. This also includes using Ascending Armor class, so an adversary's armor class is actually the target number that is needed to hit. It just makes sense. The game also takes the much-loved advantage and disadvantage mechanic from 5e, and if you don't know what that is, players roll two 20-sided dice. They take either the higher or the lower result depending on whether or not they have advantage or disadvantage. So there is a lot there that is familiar for modern D&D players, but there are also some things which will feel unfamiliar to D&D players as well. Shadowdark takes a nod from Dungeon Crawl Classics and makes spells a rolled skill. Wizards and priests have a number of spells they know, based on their level, but they can attempt to cast those spells as many times during the day as they want. They just have to roll a d20 and beat the difficulty class for that spell, which is calculated as 10 plus the spell's tier. It jettisons the old levels language to avoid confusion with character level and spell level. And I like this a lot because it makes casting higher level spells a more risky proposition. That's kind of cool. If a spell roll fails, then that spell is not just failed in the casting, it's gone until the player completes a rest. If the spell check rolls a 1, then the casting actually triggers a critical failure, and this has a couple of different impacts. Wizards, similar to Dungeon Crawl Classic, suffer a mishap, and they have to roll on the mishap table, which corresponds to the spell's tier that they failed to cast. And mishaps are bad. They can create a lot of damage for the caster, but also to the caster's party. So that's really, really cool. The randomness of it is interesting. A priest works a little different. They don't suffer a misfire and have to roll on a table. They anger their deity. So in order to regain access to the spell, they need to complete a ritual penance by making a sacrifice whose value is commensurate with the spell's tier. Now, I actually would love a Divine Smite table that is similar to what wizards use, but I do love this idea of throwing a religious context on it. You have to make penance before the deity. That does feel kind of cool. One of the key features for Shadowdark is that no character has dark vision, but monsters, on the other hand, they see in the dark just fine. Having a light source is essential because without it, a situation becomes deadly, and random encounter checks then get made every round until you get a light relit. And with all the penalties for fighting in the dark and not being able to see what's attacking you, that could be really, really scary. The other cool thing is that light sources burn in real time, typically for about an hour. This increases the tension as that timer continues to count down to 0, but it also manages to speed up gameplay. Because spending 15 minutes discussing something which would occur in-game in about 15 seconds, that's not an option. You have to get done before that torch runs out or you are in trouble. One of my groups just ran a funnel. I was one of the players in it recently, and that real-time torch burning, that was one of my favorite aspects of the game. It just helped things keep going. The mechanics of Shadowdark are really, really cool. Shadowdark uses the 6 traditional attribute scores: strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. But the modifiers for the different scores follow the 5e scale. So scores of 1 to 3 have a -4 modifier, all the way up to scores of +4 for a score of 18 or over. This is one way that Shadowdark functions as a bridge between the old school and modern play. In a nod to that old school, however, attribute scores are generated by rolling 3d6 straight down the line. You are not min-maxing your character here. The core book has 6 ancestries: dwarf, elf, goblin, half-orc, halfling, and human. Each has a special benefit from their ancestry, and each benefit creates a nice distinction for gameplay, so characters feel different one from another. Shadowdark also offers only 4 classes in the core book, which correspond to the 4 classes that you would find in OD&D after the first supplement was published. They are fighter, priest, thief, and wizard. Each class begins play with some special abilities which are tied to their in-game role. Wizards and priests get spellcasting, as well as some other things. Thieves get the classic backstab ability and benefits for their sneaking and pickpocketing. They get advantage for all these roles. And then fighters get attack bonuses through weapon mastery that grow over time. In addition to the talents, which are common to every character in a class, there's also a random 2d6 table that players roll on when they level up. That includes when they reach level 1, whether they start as a funnel or start as a level 1 character. These are different for each class, but they do follow a similar pattern. They include bonuses for checks that are common for that class, an improvement to a class ability, or an attribute increase. It's a nice way to demonstrate how the characters are gaining competence the longer they survive. The simplicity of character creation, it's just wonderful. Even better, should players choose, they can roll up their characters through completely random rolls. The stats get rolled 3d6 down the line, followed by a d6 for ancestry, a d4 for class, and a d20 for their background, which offers some nice flavor to gameplay. They can finish off by rolling 2d6 twice, once for their character's talent and a second time for their starting coin. It is fast, it is fun, and you get some really interesting results by following it. So Shadowdark is an A5 digest-sized book. It fits really well next to my Old School Essentials Advanced Fantasy volumes, and it feels great in the hand, so it's going to work really well on the shelf. The book's cover boasts this horrifying visage, which was created by Lucas Corte, and it's printed in silver metallic ink. The back cover displays the Arcane Library logo, and then you have the spine. It bears the game's name in a black letter font. The product's external presentation, it is absolutely stunning. Taking a nod from Old School Essentials, Shadowdark also utilizes the interior cover pages as a pseudo GM screen. So you have the front and back interior covers displaying an array of tables, which are essential for a GM during gameplay. This is a fantastic use of the space, and I do wish that more games would take up this practice. It's all this blank space, and it can be used so practically. It's great. The flat paper of the book is really, really good weight, but I have noticed that sometimes the innermost pages of the signatures tend to fold up a little bit when I'm turning the page. Now, I'm not sure if this is a construction defect or a combination of the book's thickness and smaller size, but it is something that I've noticed happens. Now, the book does include a book ribbon, which is always a plus, and I am a big fan of any book that has one. Even with that odd folding issue on the innermost page of a signature, I do expect this book to last a long while. It's put together really well, and it looks gorgeous. The book's artwork fits the tone of the game perfectly. It's all black and white inks, which convey the ethos of the game just brilliantly. So many of the images are highlights, but again, Lucas Cortés owlbear, which is found on page 248, that might be the most threatening depiction of this creature that I have ever seen. I have to say that Shadowdark's artwork is some of the best that I've seen in any TTRPG book. It fits beautifully. The design elements in the book are fantastic. The body text and headings are a wide sans serif font in boldface for the headings, and table headings, pull quotes, and spell list headings share a black background with a nice stippled texture on the left and right edges. Table and spell headings utilize a boldface body font, while the pull quotes actually use a rough newspaper font, which serves to further set it apart from the body text. Now, one critique that I've heard about the layout of Shadowdark is that the spacing between elements is maybe just a bit too wide. And I can see where folks are coming from for that, because the larger font sizes and the pretty healthy spacing between different elements in the book do likely cause the book's page count to be a little higher than it otherwise might be. I also have to note this. It makes the book easy to read and very easy to digest. There's never a glut of text or information on any one page. My tired eyes and my squirrel brain, they appreciate both of it. So I do understand that you could have cut down the page count a little bit with a smaller font and some smaller spacing. But man, this book is so readable, and I can sit down and just relax and take it in. Chapters each have their own title page, which uses a large black letter font underlined with a decorative flourish. The lower portion of the title page displays a pull quote, which is appropriate for the upcoming material. Interestingly enough, there are no headers in Shadowdark except on pages where a new section begins. On these pages, there is a black border set in the header, and the section title is presented at its center in the same font that's used for the pull quotes, that rough newspaper font. It is a fantastic way to indicate, hey, something new is starting on this page. Footers do exist, but they are minimalist. The current page number is presented in the body font on the outer corner of each page. The simplicity of presentation is a huge selling point for Shadowdark. Its presentation is high contrast, it is clean, it jolts a reader's attention without exhausting them. It really is an amazing design. The GM section of the book is filled with glorious tables. These cover random rolls for settlement building, dungeon creation, traps and hazard design, and random encounters by terrain type. A GM could create the framework for an entire campaign setting without leaving this section of the book. It's really well done. Shadowdark also includes a bestiary, which begins on page 187, and does include some advice on creating monsters for Shadowdark, which is something I always appreciate. The listings themselves are easy to read. The heading lists the monster's name, followed by a short description, and a compact listing of the creature's statistics. Like 5e, creatures have all the same core attributes that player characters possess, and their modifiers are listed inside that stat block. The creature's actions and attacks are listed below the stat block with terse descriptions. I am a fan of the design. The information is there, it is easy to digest, and it just gets out of the way without too much superfluous information. Shadowdark is a top-of-the-class example of how book design, layout, and game structure can all work together to create a compelling physical product. And the gameplay mechanics themselves, they are an absolute blast at the table. It is one of the best TTRPG books on the market, and if you have not checked Shadowdark out yet, it is well worth looking into. You can pick up Shadowdark from the Arcane Library website. A print PDF combo is $59, while the PDF alone is $29. So you're really benefiting by getting the physical book for this game. Also, the book is absolutely gorgeous, so why wouldn't you want it? I am still reading the Household Core book. I did not quite get as far into it as I wanted to last week, but I'm going to get that on the channel soon. This week I'm going to be writing my Forbidden Lands review. I'm going to get that also recorded. It'll probably be the next review on my channel. Now, I did pick up a new camera, which I am filming with right now. It's a DJI Osmo Pocket 3, and I thought it would be fun to walk through the different setups I've used over the last 3 years. That is going to be my next video on the channel, and I think it should be kind of interesting. I also have to celebrate I am under 300 subscribers away from 3,000 subscribers. So I wanted to thank all of you for your support on this channel. And when I hit 3K, I am giving away a Cipher System Core rulebook. So like, subscribe, comment, help spread the word about DM Tales. When we get to that 3K, I'm giving away a book, and that should be a lot of fun. Until we see each other again, folks, happy playing, everyone.